On this episode, I'm going to share an intriguing J.J. McCarthy theory. And I don't think it's just a theory. I think it's going to be a fact. But right now, it's just a theory because it has not yet been revealed. And it will not be revealed until later this year when training camp, preseason, and the regular season kicks off. So I'm going to share that in a little bit. But first, I want to share with you a picture that I found on X that is one of the most mind-confusing things, but so cool that I've ever seen. And you might think that this is just a picture of a random burger. Okay? If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're not watching on this YouTube, I'm sorry, but turn on my YouTube channel, a Minnesota Vikings podcast by Minnesota Tim, and hit that subscribe button. This might look like a random burger. Tomatoes, lettuce, the cheese, the burger, the bread. But while you're looking at this video, in the caption of this tweet on X, it says, "Squint your eyes." While looking at this picture, I want to challenge you to squint your eyes. Look at that. Squint your eyes right now. I'm doing it. Somehow, when you squint your eyes at this burger, a picture of Family Feud host Steve Harvey is revealed. So if you haven't squinted your eyes yet, squint your eyes right now. How do people put that together? How does someone look at a burger and say, "Squint your eyes at Steve Harvey"? How does someone come up with an idea to put tomatoes and lettuce and cheese in a burger and a bun in a picture, and somehow squinting your eyes reveals Steve Harvey? It's one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen. I don't know how people do it. Anyways, all right. Moving on now. You know, one of the big questions of this offseason is going to be, is J.J. McCarthy ready for the big time? Is he ready for the big moment? Because after we saw the Vikings go 14-3, Darnold go 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, the last thing the Minnesota Vikings want is a massive drop-off from the quarterback play from the season we just watched to next season. We are currently a team that is in win-now mode. We have the wide receivers. You had some offensive linemen in free agency or via the draft, and you're looking good there. You've got some defensive playmakers on the defensive line and linebacker positions. You've got to figure out the secondary, and you've got to figure out the offensive line. Those are the two big weaknesses currently facing the Minnesota Vikings this offseason that they need to address in order to become legitimate playoff contenders. And the last thing you want is to see J.J. McCarthy step in as QB1 and he goes for 17 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. That's not going to be good enough for the Minnesota Vikings to replicate their success from the 2024 season to the 2025 season. Now, we should also have fair expectations. The likelihood that the Minnesota Vikings go 14-3 again and win the games that they won next season is not going to happen. But it should be fair to expect a 10-7, maybe an 11-6 season. I think that's fair. And one of the questions is, how will J.J. McCarthy respond following his knee procedure, following the meniscus that he had completely repaired earlier in the preseason? And then he had his procedure done again. They had to go in there, clean it up. And regardless of how the Minnesota Vikings spin it, that's not good. Regardless of what they said to the media of, oh, it's just a cleanup procedure. Anytime you have to go in there twice, Now, maybe it's not a concern long term, but anytime you got to go in there twice, it's not a good thing. You want it to be a one and done, clean it up, see you later, never going to happen again kind of thing. But we're past that, and it seems like he's recovering on the timetable that the Minnesota Vikings want. They showed a video versus the Detroit Lions in the final regular season week of the season of him just in a sleeve, did not have a brace on anymore, so that's a good thing. And Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi were very intentional in their end-of-season press conferences talking about how he's on the field, doing practice drills, and doing things like that, which is a very good sign that his recovery will be done by OTAs and training camp. Now, the theory. This is not the NFL of the 1960s, even the 1990s or early 2000s, where a guy's out for the year and basically you've lost that year. That's my theory. Because J.J. McCarthy, earlier this season, him and the Minnesota Vikings brass developed a plan to learn and understand the Minnesota Vikings playbook. And technology has come so far in 2025 and in 2024 when this was happening that J.J. McCarthy was able to learn a ton more than anybody that was injured in the 2000s or even 2010s. This was not possible 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But because of the advancements of technology, J.J. McCarthy had a huge advantage that past prior quarterbacks did not have that were currently going through his end-of-season injury situation. And it is this. I'm going to reveal it to you. J.J. McCarthy, according to ESPN's Kevin Seifert, says this: to optimize McCarthy's development while on injured reserve, Sam Darnold agreed to wear a modified camera on his helmet during practices and walkthroughs. McCarthy uses the video to simulate practice reps via virtual reality. And the first thing you might think after hearing that or reading that is, eye roll. That's not a big deal. But have you ever participated in a virtual reality setting? Have you ever put one of those things on your head and done virtual reality? Because I did recently. And when I did that, my mind was blown at how realistic it feels. You're literally in your living room or in the training facility. You put on this mask and you can literally be in the same situation that's a zillion miles away or on the practice field. So this is not like playing Madden and learning the playbook through Madden, which players have admitted in the past, which is completely preposterous. This is simulating mental and physical reps from a guy using virtual reality. And they're not using the basic of most basic virtual reality headsets on J.J. McCarthy. This is the Minnesota Vikings organization. And the Minnesota Vikings organization is going to have the top-notch virtual reality headset. The one I used was like $300 from a friend. And it was fun. I was golfing and I was hitting shots, and it was realistic. And I'm sure the Minnesota Vikings have the top-end stuff. And J.J. McCarthy is participating in virtual reality. And he did all season long, which makes me believe that he is going to be more ready than anybody anticipates for the 2025 season. And that is going to be part of the reason why the Minnesota Vikings decide, you know what? We can let Sam Darnold go. We can let him walk in free agency, or we can do a sign and trade with him via franchise tag to another football team. And I think that's where the Minnesota Vikings are going to fall. And I think that's where they're going to land on the whole Sam Darnold thing. And I believe that J.J. McCarthy and his virtual reality practice this season has him way more advanced as a quarterback that's never played a single snap in the NFL than any other quarterback in the past that went through the exact same situation. So he's at a disadvantage that he didn't practice this year or play, because those reps are important. Even if he didn't get playing time, he could still practice if he didn't get hurt. But he has much more experience doing what the Minnesota Vikings did this year than he would have 5 years ago. And what's so fascinating about that is here's another kind of story about it. Jaden Daniels made virtual reality training a condition for any team drafting him. Now he's NFL Rookie of the Year and 1 game away from the Super Bowl. His edge? Training his brain at 1.75 times the speed. The story of the first quarterback 2.0. So Jaden Daniels used virtual reality and became an overnight sensation in the NFL this year. Took the Commanders from a team that couldn't make the playoffs and made them wild card right behind the Philadelphia Eagles winners. And J.J. McCarthy is implementing the same thing within the Minnesota Vikings organization. So it's just a theory, but I think that this has weight to it. And I am going to be so intrigued come this spring and summer at how much further J.J. McCarthy is than anyone would have anticipated because of virtual reality. You heard it here. McCarthy will be ready by the 2025 season for the Minnesota Vikings. Thank you for watching, and thank you for making this podcast part of your day. Hit that subscribe button wherever you are watching or listening. Thank you for going on this podcasting journey with me.